Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is First Reaction TV. My name is Jmart. Today we're gonna watch a clip of Piers Morgan interviewing Ben Shapiro. Um, getting down to it, and pretty much what I believe politically, it's pretty much just be honest, say what's on your mind, and honestly, other than that, I respect you for it. Um, over time here, I've come to like watching Piers Morgan. I like watching Ben Shapiro. I don't always agree with everything they say, but I like them because they have an opinion and don't just follow suit. So we're gonna check out this interview, see where they go with it, and go from there.
Well, that's quite an intro we've given you there.
Yeah, no, I appreciate
you
that.
You better live up to it.
I look at that old tape and suddenly I hit puberty, right?
We both look so young.
Oh, my God.
That's probably over 10 years
10 years ago.
Right.
10 years ago.
And it was interesting because I was at the time, getting very angry about a series of mass shootings in America with a British sensibility and saying, obviously my country, we don't really have any guns. And I was, hectoring and lecturing, I guess, Americans about their gun laws, and it went down as badly as that phrase would suggest, particularly with you. But what was interesting was when you came on, I thought, who's this snotty little kid who's going to start trying to take me on? And then it rapidly became clear to me you were a hell of a lot smarter than you appeared. We've moved on from then. Anyway, we've had our kiss and make up interview after that. But I think what was really interesting to me, 2016, so 7 years ago now.
And just just kind of for proof for this, to prove that I'm not some conservative robot that follows just anyone that's in conservative media. I don't agree with basically what Piers just said. He did go on a huge gun rant a while back, but it's one of those things. That's his opinion. He doesn't have to agree with everything that's pro-conservative, and I still like Piers for that. It doesn't bother me at all. Like, good for him for just saying what's on his mind.
You tweeted a tweet. This is your pinned tweet to this date. Simply said, "Facts don't care about your feelings." And if any phrase, I think, perfectly epitomizes this woke era that we have somehow stumbled into, it's that. Because the woke brigade put feelings before facts. How do we get there?
Well, culturally speaking, I think that what happened is that the value of subjective authenticity became the core to pretty much everybody. So the idea of individualism was taken to its logical extreme, which was, I'm so important and everything I feel is so important that I can ignore the rest of reality. And in fact, reality is an imposition on me. Institutions, rules, roles, the rules of the road, all that sort of stuff, it's an imposition on who I truly am. And in order for me to be actually free, I have to speak my truth. Now, as I've said and you've said, there's no such thing as my truth, right? There's your opinion, and then there's the truth. But as soon as you start speaking in terms of my truth, as soon as you start saying...
Dude, I love Ben Shapiro. Like, he is so damn smart, and the older I get, the more I admire people that are, so much more fast-thinking and more intelligent than I am. They can say things so much more, I guess, I can't even talk right now. They say things in such a clearer way, to people, and they can voice pretty much, what everyone's thinking, but they say it so smooth and clear. And facts don't care about your feelings or whatever the saying is. Like, I think it's perfect, man. My truth isn't a thing. Like, there's day truth and your opinion. Like, that's great. Like, that's great.
Well, there's how I feel about the world, and how I feel about the world is the core of me. What that also does is it means that other people are aggressing on you when they disagree with you. Because obviously a shared reality means that we can disagree about things out here, but we sort of as human beings are intact. But the moment that you start to identify your truth with the truth, then anybody attacking your truth is attacking you as a human being. And I think that that's where we've gone, is
he's
this
smart.
movement away from, we're having a political debate, but again, we can go out and have a drink afterward because we are not the political debate. The political debate's a different thing. To my politics are who I am, or my feelings about who I am, or my feelings about the world That's the thing that matters more than anything else.
And what's extraordinary, I mean, I remember this, we're going to come to them later, sadly, but Meghan and Harry, when they went on Oprah Winfrey, and she started talking constantly about my truth, and Oprah was endorsing your truth and everything. I was thinking, I'm living in a sort of mad world where truth is no longer factual. It's just whatever you're feeling in any given moment. It seems such a perverse thing for a democratic society.
Yeah.
That you move away from fact-based, from science, whatever it may be, to just feelings dominating a culture. And if you defy those feelings, you are instantly branded the enemy and you must be destroyed.
Well, there's no conversation to be had, right? I can't have.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much a perfect sum up of just everything right now. You know, it has somehow people's feelings have somehow converted politics, science, and reality, and they rolled it all up into one. And now it's just that seems like the Democrat or the Democratic Party basically. And once you get to that, like Ben said, you know, once you make yourself more important than the greater scheme of things, then any conversation you have after that is basically just lost, because then that person takes anything you say negatively, any opinion that they may hear that is constructive criticism, they take it emotionally and they take it personally because they rolled up their entire selves inside their beliefs and their politics. And so that means if you have something different to say, then you're attacking them. And that's where we are. And like the fact that he sums it up that way and can explain it like that, I think is just so damn smart. And it's why I enjoy. I don't actually listen to him a lot, but every time I do, man, it's just like, damn. Wish I was that smart.
Your feelings. You're feeling your feelings. There's no way for me to dissuade you from.
You can't deny my feelings.
Correct. I can't deny. I can deny the facts that you bring to the table, but the problem is once that becomes irrelevant, then we're just at an impasse. There's no more conversation to be had.
How big a problem is it that at the same time, simultaneously, I think, you've had the rise of very populist leaders like Donald Trump, Boris Johnson in the UK, and others who play pretty fast and loose with the truth? That you have people who say, well, hang on, you talk about the sanctity of truth, but you've got these political leaders, US presidents, British prime ministers, where they don't seem to care about the truth. They just bumble through with whatever suits them from day to day. How dangerous is that to the whole shebang?
I mean, I think that is dangerous, but it's dangerous in a different way. And it's also dangerous in a more consistent and, I would say, historically precedented way. I mean, the fact is that politicians have always fibbed to us. I mean, there's nothing new about politicians saying things that are not true, from LBJ to George W. Bush to Donald Trump and Barack Obama. I mean, like literally every politician.
And Joe Biden. I mean,
Yeah, to
President
President
Biden.
Biden. Right? You see this all the time. So the idea of a politician not telling the truth or shading the truth in particular ways, that's not what's new. I think what's new is where people are presented with data and their immediate response isn't, let me bring you some data that rebuts that data, but I don't even have to look at your data because your motivation is bad. Right? This philosophy.
How dangerous is it, though, that we've also become incredibly tribal? I think more than I can ever remember in modern.
See, I think that last point there is almost more key than anything, and it pretty much ties into probably what Piers is about to say about the whole tribalism, you know, in politics type thing. But you know, once you get to the point where you say, or political parties say, well, I don't care about your data, I just know you're wrong. Everything's already lost at that point. If you already go in knowing the other person's wrong, but you don't know why they're wrong, they're just wrong. The conversation and the debate's over because it could never get started in the first place.
History, actually. You know, when I read your Twitter feed, I think you're always prepared to call out your own side if you genuinely feel there's been some egregious wrongdoing that they've done or a terrible mistake or whatever. But the number of people prepared to do that now, on social media in particular, is minuscule. Most people park themselves into their tribe, whatever that tribe may be, and there is no moving them. There's no deviation, even if the facts change. And again, it plays into, well, Well, if your feelings are the facts, then if you feel that fact is wrong, well, that's enough.
Right. But the tribalism that I think has cropped up is rooted in a philosophy called the motivism, which is the idea that everybody's actual viewpoints are not driven by their view of the facts. It's driven by their internal emotions. What that allows me to do on the converse is attribute malicious intent to people that I'm arguing with. And it means that I get to ignore all of their facts. The reason that I'm disagreeing with you is because I'm good and you're a bad person. And what that means is that people on my own side, for example, they might be upset with me for talking with people on the other side of the aisle, because why would you talk to somebody who's a nasty person, who has bad motivations? And the same thing on people on the other side talking to me. I was having a conversation one time with a very, very large left-wing podcaster. This is probably 2018. And I said, we should really do like a crossover podcast for the midterm elections. We'll do huge business. And my side will be totally fine with it. It'll be great. And he said, your side will be fine with it. My side will kill me.
Right.
And that's probably
But that's
right.
the way it's gone. And Bill Maher said to me, that comedy used to be rooted really in right-wing extremism being comedic. And that was where liberal comics like him could get their material. Now he said it's mainly to the left. It's the woke area of politics that gives him the most comedic material. And he can't believe it. As a liberal himself, he feels just really frustrated that they don't understand how ridiculous and laughable their positions on things have become.
And see, just to kind of go back to the beginning and tie into this, I'm not like a conservative robot. I love Bill Maher. I disagree with a ton of stuff he says. I think he says some off the wall stuff sometimes, I guess. But at the same time, like, good for him though. Like, the guy at least says what he believes, and he says it because there's either strong facts behind it, strong science behind it, or it's not once again feeling politics or just I guess made up politics or made up. He's living in reality where he at least acknowledges the other side is there, and he will talk to them, and he will openly talk to them and debate them. And I love Bill Maher for that. Like, good for him.
Become.
Well, it's driving a bunch of people who consider themselves center or center-left into the arms of people who are more conservative, actually. I've made the point before that I think the future of the West may ride not on people who agree with me most of the time, conservatives, traditionalists. I think the future of the West might ride on people who consider themselves kind of traditional liberals, who may agree with some of the left's prescriptions economically, but who disagree with the way they want to get there, which is very often by silencing debate, using censorship, shutting things down. So the question is going to be, are they willing to put off utopia for a while in order to engage in the debate?
Because I've always thought, I've always thought myself not really as a political ideologue, right? I think I'm pretty centrist and call out everybody, really. I see myself as a journalist, fundamentally, and don't think that being partisan helps that particular profession very much, as we've seen from those who've actually drifted down into being partisan as journalists. It doesn't work. You become an activist.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm probably shaking my head a ton and all that, but look, I have not heard a conversation between two people that has made more sense, I think, in probably the last 2 years of watching news on cable networks or watching news clips online, that you just don't hear this. And the worst part is that they're not even having a political debate or I actually have no clue what Ben's values and belief systems are. I really don't even know what Pierce's are, to be honest with you. But they could both be far left leaning, Democrats, which I know they're not. I agree with them, and I'll listen to what they have to say. But the bottom line is that they're at least willing to call out this crazy political ideology that we have now, and anyone that is just willing to speak the truth, for God's sake, right now, I'll listen to. And it's really that simple. I can't get enough of people just being honest. That's it. It is so hard to come by if you're in, any sort of the news world or following politics, that it's just good to listen to two people at least admit that there's crazies on both sides of the fence, um, and at the same time saying that, also calling out these crazy ideologies, which like it seems like the Democrat Party is like completely unwilling to even say that they've made their feelings their politics, or they've made like their own personal belief system what their politic thing is. Like it's just weird, man. It's so weird.
But someone said the other day, are you a conservative? I said, well, I've never identified as a conservative. But the farther lunatic that the left wants
Yeah.
to go, the more the pendulum swings. And eventually we all get sucked into thinking, well, okay, actually, by comparison to this, I probably am getting a bit conservative because I think they're lunatics.
I think what's happening right now, and it's happening in a bunch of countries, is people are just craving any sense of normality.
And common sense.
And no one is providing it to them.
Right.
No one is providing it.
Yes.
They're taking a
Oh my
slap at
God.
people who are responsible for the status quo. as
Speak
license
the
to now do
truth,
whatever they
dude.
want. And so you're seeing the pendulum
Jesus.
swing wildly side to side, because if you're a political leader, you're trying to harness the passions of the moment to get done the thing that you really, really want to get done, when in reality, the population just wants things to kind of just stop. Just like
Yes.
leave us alone and stop.
Yes.
Right, I totally agree.
He literally just said what I was thinking. Like, this is why this man is so damn smart. Like, he is so damn smart. He picks up on every tiny little thing. And, like, I couldn't even say, like, what I was craving or why I was listening to these guys. And he just told me why. He just told me why. That, like, everyone is just craving. And I didn't even put that together. Like, I said that, yes, that's why I listened to him. But, like, that's true. That's why I'm so pulled towards it, or, just this conversation, and why I think it's so good is because people are just craving someone to tell them the truth. That's it. Like, that's how bad it is now.
And I think that's the majority of people, right? I mean, today, Rolling Stone published an opinion piece on why cancel culture is good for democracy. And I read this piece and it was so completely deluded because, of course, cancel culture is the antithesis of a democracy. It's actually the antithesis of liberalism. You can't pretend to be liberal with what that actually was intended to mean and support cancel culture.
I think the left uses cancel culture in a very different way than most of us use cancel culture. When we talk about cancel culture, typically what we mean is you say something that they don't like on the air, and they decide to secondarily boycott your advertisers, or they go to your bosses
Right.
and call for you to be fired.
Right.
And that's what we mean by cancel culture. What they mean is, well, we're allowed to disapprove of you. Well, sure, you're allowed to disapprove. Turn the channel. Right? You don't have to subscribe to
Right.
Daily Wire. You don't have to watch your show. Right? But what they do with that instead is they attempt to get you kicked off the air, not by dint of lack of ratings or something, but just because they're so angry that they're going to go yell at people and bother them until you get kicked off the air. That's what cancel culture really is.
I interviewed Congressman George Santos this week, who, even by the standards
saw it.
of
It was-
fibbing politicians, I mean, it was quite startling. I'll just play the clip where he admits to being a terrible liar.
And just George Santos is the dude that is in Congress right now. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, and he must just has lied about everything, about where he went to school, his sexual identity. I think like it's like crazy off the wall stuff about like saving dogs and how he saved pup. Like, this dude must just be like he must just be like a politician's politician.
I've been a terrible liar. I mean, would you be prepared to say that?
Sure. Like I
Well,
said,
go on then.
well, I've been a terrible liar on those subjects.
I mean, this guy's a serving member of the United States Congress. Right? He's one of the most powerful politicians in the country. By
Oh
default.
my god.
And he just admitted to being a terrible liar. Whether that meant his volume of lies, or he's very bad at them, or in his case, uniquely, probably both. But what did you make of that? And should someone like him be allowed to stay in Congress?
I mean, I think that the voters are going to decide whether he gets to stay in Congress or not. I don't have a lot of standards for who gets kicked out of Congress by members of their own party, because, frankly, I think that he's almost the apotheosis of what politics has reached, which is, I'm going to lie as much as I can get away with it. And then the minute I can't get away with it, I'll just be like, well, I'm sorry I lied. I mean, that's
As
really
a
sad.
high-profile Jewish man, I want to play you the clip where he talks about being Jew-ish, where he separates the two parts of the word. Let's have a look at this.
I always say, I was raised Catholic, but I come from a Jewish family, so that makes me Jew-ish. I said it to a room with 1,000 people in November. People were hysterically loud.
So this guy has gone so far to the point where Pierce said it, he separated the word, where someone is Jewish and George Santos is Jew-ish.
laughing. It was funny to them. They loved it.
Now, the people have
Oh
already
my
said they were at
God.
that event and they weren't laughing with him. There's no sign of any evidence he has any Jewish heritage. He claimed his grandparents fled the Holocaust. There seems to be no evidence for that. His parents are both from Brazil. And this idea that somehow he can be Jew-ish, i.e. not actually Jewish, just ish.
Well, I mean, honestly, what he should have said is, on the inside, I feel Jewish. Right? I feel so Jewish on the inside. So I'm Jewish. I mean, what are you going to do? Challenge my feelings of
But he
being
has
Jewish?
repeatedly said he's Jewish.
Yeah.
I mean, and he wasn't joking. We've seen the clip, so he said it repeatedly.
Yeah, no, again, I sort of see him as he's almost the apex predator of politicians at this point. He's reached the logical endpoint of where our politics is going. And, it is the job of people like you or me to call it out when he says things that are not true. But I think that we have reached a sort of post-truth era, not in that people don't pay attention to the truth, but I'm not even sure how many people care about the
Right.
truth. Now, I do think that can be exaggerated. I do think the bulk of the population really does care very much about the truth, and that's why I think that
I think so, too.
There's going to be a tidal wave of resentment that is about to crash across a bunch
How
of
important
societies.
is the truth to you? Because you've got this huge following now, massive podcast, tens of millions of people watching your stuff on social media and so on. How important is truth to you now? That everything comes out of your mouth or that you write is fact.
I mean, it's the most important thing to me because I have to sleep at night. I mean, it's something that I try to think about as much as humanly possible is never lie to your audience. Never say
Right.
to your audience a thing that you know to be not true, and try to follow the best data possible. And that does mean that you're very often having to be more nuanced than sort of the politics of the situation may allow. Because the easiest position in politics is always to take the hardest right or the hardest left position, the sort of most pure, most easily understood position, or to just play the easiest game of all, which is, again, my opponent is a bad guy. My opponent is a person who hates your guts.
When we had our dust up at CNN about gun control, for example, I'm not going to go over all that again, but had I been very different with you, if I'd been very respectful and said, look, I'm a British guy, these aren't my laws, I'm just as horrified as you are by these massacres, and didn't talk about gun control, which I think has always been a terribly inflammatory phrase for many Americans. They don't want to be controlled. And they certainly don't want to hear a British accent telling them about how they should be more controlled. But if I'd phrased it as about gun safety, if that had always been the debate in America, how do you make it safer in a country that has 400 million firearms in circulation? Would that have been a more constructive debate, do you think?
I think it would have been a more informative debate. And the reason being, I think that clarity is very much opposed sometimes by passion. And we all get passionate about these issues. I'm not going to pretend I'm not passionate on my show, or I'm completely dispassionate in all circumstances. I'm obviously not. But I think that would have allowed for the kind of discussion where we could have looked at data from various areas of the world, where have regulations been effective? Where have they not been effective? What are, as I said on the show actually at the time, I believe, what are the risks and rewards of particular policies? That's where the good discussion area, I think, gets done.
Just final point on the gun thing, but I'm aware many viewers who watch this in America own guns and support
Yeah, I own guns,
the
yeah.
Second Amendment rights and so on. Where do you see the line going? As you have all these massacres and as gun ownership increases, there's more guns in circulation. What do you do about that? I mean, as a country as big and powerful as America, what more can be?
So I never heard or actually saw this interview with these two guys. Like I've said, in prior videos, I don't know if I've said in this one, but I'm fairly new to, trying to follow the political landscape of what's going on. So I'm fairly new to this. I haven't seen this CNN debate that, he keeps referencing. I'm pro Second Amendment. I don't have the answer to what Piers just said. I know that anyone using a gun, the most important thing is training and respect of the weapon. And most people that are either brought up that way or trained that way, don't really have issues with this. It's always homicidal maniacs or people with mental health issues. And look, you can debate about the assault rifles, pistols and blah. And it's just, look, it's unfortunate, man. Anytime you're talking about, mass killings, like what the hell are you supposed to say? But banning everything, it's not going to stop violence. Like, it's just not. Most of these democratic cities all over the country, pretty much all majority cities ran by Democratic governors and mayors and police chiefs, and like, guns are illegal in most large cities, like flat out illegal. Like, can't own a, like, there have to be some pretty special exemptions to be able to own a gun inside city limits. And like, that's where we have the most violence, gun violence, constantly. So like, to just say that we're gonna put a ban on guns, I can never have this a serious conversation with someone like that, because like, where most gun violence is right now in our country, there's already bans on guns there. Like, they're already there, and I don't think a lot of people even know that guns are actually illegal inside most city limits, and that's where most gun violence is. I don't people even know that that's a thing, because they want to be on this ban guns, ban this, ban that. I mean, look, they're banned already in the cities, and people get murdered there constantly. So
Be done to just
it's a
make it
hard it's a hard question.
Again, the measures that I've always suggested are measures that tend more toward the gun owner than toward the.
Yes, it's a mental health thing, man. I mean, it's
We
people.
obviously need better screening procedures for people who have a history of severe mental illness. We have red flag laws on the books, but they're not enacted. I mean, people don't actually
Right.
practically follow the red flag laws, which is why I'm kind of skeptical of the idea that if we pass some more text from the legislature, that's magically going to translate into better action. What we need is more alacrity from the cops. I mean, how many of these mass shootings have we seen where there are 1,000 red flags and the cops go to the house and then they're told, well, no, we're not going to do anything. We're going to leave you back out there. It's almost in every circumstance. So we actually do need law enforcement to have more ability and will to carry out, for example, when they know somebody is severely mentally disturbed or somebody is shooting a gun at their mother, which we've had a case like that. That would be a time where you actually remove the person's guns and keep track of them, make sure they can't actually get guns. Right? I mean,
See, if I had my way again, when I was doing that debating, I would have had this kind of conversation. I can look back at those and realize I was letting my own emotions override.
we all have these. I mean,
Yeah, but it's interesting, isn't it? I do think an important part of how we get to a better place as society now, away from this tribalism, away from all this stuff, is you've got to be prepared to have this kind of conversation, which doesn't end up with me just looking at you and shouting, well, you're a complete idiot because you don't agree with me, right? It's more complicated. It's more nuanced. Life is more nuanced than that.
I like to think so, and I think that, again, those conversations can be really, really productive. I try to make a habit. I have my regular daily show, but I also have a show called The Sunday Special that you've been on,
Yeah.
in which I bring on a bunch of people who disagree, from Bill Maher to Anna Kasparian,
Yeah.
and we actually try to talk through these issues. And people,
Last time I
people
came
love
on,
it.
I found it a very surprisingly pleasant experience.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, guys, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Please like and subscribe. Let me know what you think of the video. I hope, whoever's watching this, I hope you guys got something out of it. And, regardless of what party you're on, who you think, you belong to, which side you think you belong to, regardless of what anyone will tell me, these people are necessary right now in the entire, political sphere. These people are such a necessity that we need more like them. And if we get more like them, I'll continue to listen and watch. So thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it.